Hi gang, this week I have you linting JavaScript code from two applications that we did an overview with that cover links, images, and timer events. Well, as far as linters, there are linters for JavaScript, CSS, PHP, and almost any language out there. And what it is about code quality. It's about security as well. So we want our code to look great for your code portfolio, especially if you're up for a job right now. And JSLint.com is one of the better ones. I'm going to go ahead and show you one other one that is not quite as demanding. For example, let's say I take the code from one of the applications this week, and you see I get no errors. That's with JavaScript lint, online lint. But I can take the same code and pop it in here, and I get a ton of warnings. So the concept here is this is a very more thorough linter. That comes from the makers of a very good textbook called JavaScript: The Good Parts. And a couple of things here. The UseStrict directive is about code quality. It makes sure that variables are in their proper scope and that they're used and not left used before they are defined. It's also about making sure that code is efficient. So I have the UseStrict directive here. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy JSLint and run this. So I have the exact same code that you have at this point. And you see a couple of things down here like undeclared document get on by ID. That is true. It is undeclared. Okay. However, that's because we are the document would need to be in a browser that has a document type definition. Now, if we were to go back to our application right now, and we'll just use the image swapper. And I'm going to open up this with Sublime, and you see all of my code right here. Now, if I were to paste all of that HTML inside here and JSLint, I get an immediate error. So it sees that title tag and just simply drops out on me. So if I go back, this is the function here. Now, JSLint is a very useful tool. They tell you to use the JSLint browser mode to get that document. What I'm telling you is it's okay if you leave the document in there. They have a comment like this: JSLint use browser. Yeah. So use browser equals true. Whoops, excuse me. I'm going to pop back on that. There's the browser equals true line. So when I do JSLint on that, it says place JS directive true before the first statement, which we did, but unfortunately that has to be, that affects the UseStrict. So UseStrict would throw an ordinary error message on a browser when you run it. Now, if you do JSLint, oops, if I do JSLint like this, now this function needs to use a UseStrict paradigm. So if you recall, you can use UseStrict, whoops, inside the functions. That's from the extra video this week about using strict. So now when I do this, now we're getting somewhere. And now we have line 3, and it's the 4th column, and it says expected semicolon saw return. So you would add a semicolon there. A couple of these things are pretty difficult, like you see there's a whole list, but return document get on by ID, expecting a trailing space, and that's right here. So what is that trailing space? Could it be that? Oh, now we get that same error. It says unexpected space between this and this, so we know that that's not the case. So as you go through down down this path, you'll see things like window.onload function. Okay, and the undeclared window can't be declared. When you see something like this function needs a UseStrict paradigm, you can simply put UseStrict inside there. But the fact is that there are going to be some issues here that you cannot control. So if you want a perfectly clean version and you're worried about that window, you can add this. That's from the JSLint docs. So let me make sure that this is functional, and I'm going to hit JSLint. But I would say the things that are part of HTML that are that it complains about, like undeclared, don't worry about that. But at this point, let's say we look at this unexpected var at column 4 not 0. That's line 14. We'll fix that real quick. That's a formatting issue. 2, 3, 4. So I'm doing 4 links over, and now when I look at line 14 and I JSLint again, that is clean now. So there's a few things, like lines 13 and 15 have the spaces. So how do you deal with that? Well, you could simply make sure that they're all formatted. And then we have a link here. So basically, I'm asking you to go through the code, format the code, and try to get a good understanding of what the reasons are for each one of these. So if I take you through expected 1 space between this right here, here's the line number. It's line 8, and it says expected 1 space between the function and the parentheses. So we have to do that. And now I can move that, and you see that error goes away. So it takes a little bit of time. I've gotten you through a few of these. The blank ones are pretty easy. Like line 25 is simply that error, that line right there. And you want to make sure that these are all formatted properly. As far as indentation, we're using something called PSR4, which means each tab is 4 spaces. That's why you see these column 4 issues. And expected 1 space between function here. There's line 23, and we'll add that as well because that's our, whoops, didn't mean to do that. I was hitting save. So we just basically need to run it and then move down. Now, you'll see a couple of things that are going to confuse you, like don't make functions within a loop. That is line 23. So let's go up to line 23 and talk about this. And this is one of those things that we can't get around, only because if we have a choice to make it dynamic. So I'm not, I would never hold that against you as far as this closure. We need a closure event here. So, and what you can do is add for this function right here. We can put, whoops, excuse me. It's this guy right here. Whoops. I'm trying to put it right inside here. But this JSLint would allow the loop function to be true. That's only if you mind the issue here. And this, if you look, it did nothing. But I do think this linter is one of the best ones out there. Let's see if it works up here at the top. And I know it's not formatted properly, but when I scroll down here, we still get the don't make functions within a loop. That I would forgive as far as what JSLint is doing. But as far as the formatting, that's what I'll be looking at, and that's what I would expect. So let's take the unexpected 4 here. That might confuse you. On line 17, let's go ahead and JSLint that, and 17.4. So there are a few things that you will not be able to change, and one of those things is that for loop here. If you do research on JSLint, you'll see that they want people to use for each loops, but I would stick with the for loop. That's their thing. This is about formatting and making your code quality perfect. So feel free to ignore anything that has the window object, like undefined window or undefined document, and feel free to use my code, which I'll put in the homework assignment. Anyway, don't hesitate to reach out to me for questions on this. It's more about the experience of getting you to interact with a linter and understanding what a linter is.